On my 18th birthday, parents announced they are charging me $1,300 for my childhood bedroom plus bills. So I do this, and they get the short end of the stick. Hey everyone! Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Okay, Reddit. I need to get this off my chest because what happened to me is so insane that my friends think I'm making it up. This is going to be long, but stick with me because the revenge at the end is absolutely worth it. Some context about me. I'm 18 million, just graduated high school last month, and I've basically been living in hell for the past few years. Not like abuse or anything dramatic, but the kind of slow burn bullshit that makes you question your sanity. Let me paint you a picture of my household. There's me, my parents, and my two younger brothers. Dylan, who's 14, and little Sam, who's 10. We live in this cramped three-bedroom house that my parents bought back when they thought they were going to be some kind of power couple. Spoiler alert, that didn't work out. Here's where it gets fucked up, though. Since I was about 12 years old, I've essentially been the third parent in this house. Every morning, I'm the one getting Dylan and Sam ready for school, making their lunches, driving them around, picking them up, helping with homework, making dinner half the time, and putting Sam to bed. Weekends are even worse because I'm watching them while my parents go out or run errands, taking them to soccer practice, birthday parties, play dates, doctor appointments when my parents are busy. I'm doing laundry, mowing the lawn, taking out trash, cleaning bathrooms, shoveling snow in winter, raking leaves in fall, basically every household chore you can think of. My brothers do jack shit because they're too young, but I've been doing this stuff since middle school. My dad works some middle management office job that apparently doesn't pay as well as he thought it would when they bought this house. He's constantly stressed about money, but won't admit they're living beyond their means. My mom hasn't worked in 8 years and claims she's a stay-at-home mom, but her daily routine consists of waking up after I've gotten the kids ready and off to school, coffee and Netflix scrolling until noon, lunch with friends or shopping, more Netflix or napping, then pretending to do light housework while complaining about being tired. This woman literally has not done a load of laundry, mowed the lawn, or deep cleaned anything in years, but she'll spend $200 on skincare products and then complain about how we can't afford groceries. She drives a fucking Lexus SUV that she insisted she needed for the kids, but I'm the one driving them everywhere in my beat-up Honda Civic that I bought with money from my part-time job junior year. The entitlement is unreal. She'll sit on the couch in her $80 athleisure outfit, getting her nails done every 2 weeks, hair done monthly, constant online shopping, but then stress about the electric bill. She hasn't had a job in almost a decade, and whose biggest daily challenge is deciding which reality TV show to binge. But somehow I'm supposed to be grateful for everything she's done for me. So I graduate high school and immediately start working full-time at this warehouse job. It's not glamorous. I'm basically loading and unloading trucks, organizing inventory, doing physical labor for 9 hours a day. But it pays $15 an hour, and I'm pulling 40 to 45 hours a week, so I'm bringing home around $1,800 a month after taxes. For the first time in my life, I have actual money. Not like $50 from babysitting the neighbors, but real adult money. I start saving for community college starting in August, buy myself some decent clothes, fix up my car, and even start building a little emergency fund. I felt proud, you know? Like I was finally becoming independent. But apparently having money when you're 18 and living at home is like painting a target on your back. Almost immediately, my mom starts making these passive-aggressive comments about how nice it must be to have all that spending money while living here for free. How when she was my age, she gave her parents half her paycheck. How some people don't appreciate everything that's done for them. Mind you, I'm still doing all the same shit I was doing before. Still waking up early to get the boys ready. Still driving them everywhere. Still doing chores. Still helping with homework. Still being their unpaid babysitter every weekend. The only difference is now I have money. So suddenly, I'm a freeloader. My dad starts chiming in too with comments about how I'm making good money now, and it's time to start thinking about contributing to the household. How in the real world I'd be paying rent and bills. How my parents have been supporting me for 18 years, so maybe it's time I help support them. That last one really pissed me off because supporting me? I've been supporting myself and doing half their parenting for them since middle school. But I kept my mouth shut because I figured they'd ask for something reasonable. The breaking point came about 6 weeks into my job when my mom comes home with shopping bags from some expensive boutique. New purse, new shoes, some skincare stuff that probably cost $300 total. That same evening, She's complaining to my dad about how stressed she is about money and how tight things are. I'm sitting there thinking, lady, maybe don't blow a day's worth of my wages on purses if you're so worried about finances. The audacity was just incredible. Spend money like crazy, then complain about being broke. That's when they decided to call the family meeting. Picture this. We're all sitting around the kitchen table like this is some kind of intervention. My parents have these serious looks on their faces, and my brothers are confused about why they're even there. My mom starts with this whole speech about responsibility and growing up, going on about how in the real world, I'd have to pay rent and bills. So it's time I learned what that's like. How they've been generous, letting me live here for free for 18 years, again ignoring the fact that I've been their unpaid employee this whole time. I'm nodding along thinking, okay, this is actually fair. Maybe they'll ask for like $300 to $400 a month. That would still leave me plenty for college savings and personal expenses. I'm mentally preparing to negotiate somewhere in that range. Then my dad drops the nuclear bomb and tells me I need to pay $1,300 a month for my room, plus half of all the household bills. I stared at him for a solid 10 seconds, thinking I misheard. Then I started laughing because it was so ridiculous it had to be a joke. When I asked $1,300? For what exactly? My mom says, for your room. Like it's the most obvious thing in the world. I'm like, my room? You mean the tiny bedroom I share with Dylan? With the bunk beds and barely enough space for both our dressers? And she goes, it's still a room with this smug look. Then she explains that half the bills means electric, water, garbage, internet, groceries, everything. They figured about $400 to $500 a month for my share. So let me get this straight. They want me to pay $1,300 for a shared bedroom where I have zero privacy plus another $450 average for bills. That's $1,750 a month out of my $1,800 take-home pay. They wanted to leave me with $50 a month for gas, car insurance, clothes, college savings, personal expenses, everything. When I pointed out that's literally my entire paycheck, my mom says with this nasty smile, well, maybe you need to work more hours then, or get a second job. Welcome to adulthood. That's when it clicked. They weren't trying to teach me responsibility or prepare me for the real world. They saw me as their personal ATM machine. They were struggling financially because of their shitty spending habits and decided their 18-year-old son should bail them out. I told them I'd think about it because I was too shocked to argue in the moment, and my dad said I had until the end of the month to decide, pay up or find somewhere else to live. My mom added with this fake sweet voice that I'd never find anywhere cheaper than here, that this was the best deal I was going to get. Challenge fucking accepted. I spent the next 3 days doing intensive research on apartments in our area. Want to know what $1,300 a month actually gets you around here? A lot more than a shared bedroom in your parents' house, that's for sure. I found multiple one-bedroom apartments for $1,200 to $1,400. Nice places too with modern kitchens, in-unit laundry, parking. Some even had pools or gyms. Full apartments with privacy, independence, and actual space to breathe. I also found several two-bedroom places in the $1,400 to $1,600 range, which meant if I got a roommate, I'd be paying $700 to $800 for my own bedroom and bathroom. Still way less than what my parents were demanding. But the more I researched, the angrier I got. Do you know what the median rent is for a bedroom in a shared house in our area? $400 to $600? My parents were trying to charge me more than double the market rate for a room I had to share with my teenage brother. I tried one more time to reason with them, showed them my research, explained how their price was completely unreasonable, pointed out that I'd been contributing to the household in other ways for years. My dad just kept saying, that's what we decided is fair. Take it or leave it. My mom got nastier and said, maybe if you weren't so selfish, you'd want to help your family out. We've sacrificed so much for you kids. Sacrificed? Lady, the biggest sacrifice you've made in the last 5 years is deciding between Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts. But I was done arguing. When I said I'd look at other options, my mom snorted, good luck with that. You'll come crawling back within a month when you realize how hard the real world is. You have no idea how to take care of yourself. Famous last words, bitch. Remember Jake Martinez from my high school? Cool dude, graduated 2 years ahead of me. Played varsity soccer. We weren't super close in school, but we were friends and stayed in touch through social media. I remembered him posting a few months ago about needing a roommate for his apartment. I figured it was a long shot since it had been a while, but I hit him up anyway, and turns out he'd been trying to find someone for like 4 months and was still looking. We met up that weekend, and he showed me the place. Holy shit, it was like a mansion compared to my cramped house situation. 2 bedrooms, 2 full bathrooms, modern kitchen with all new appliances, in-unit washer and dryer, dishwasher, central air, even a balcony overlooking this nice courtyard area. The complex had a gym, pool, and was in a really safe neighborhood, close to both my work and the community college I'd be starting at in August. It was perfect. The rent was $1,100 total, so $550 each. Utilities usually run about $150 to $200 total, so like $75 to $100 each depending on the season. Internet was $60 split two ways, so I was looking at around $650 to $680 a month all in. Let me repeat that. $650 to $680 total monthly expenses for my own bedroom, my own bathroom, shared modern kitchen and living room, access to amenities, and complete independence. Compared to $1,750 to share a tiny room with my 14-year-old brother and still follow my parents' rules. I asked when I could move in. Jake said whenever I wanted because he'd been struggling to cover the full rent by himself. We shook hands and I gave him $550 for first month's rent right there. Best money I ever spent. When I got home and told my parents I'd found a place and would be moving out in 2 weeks, their reactions were priceless. My dad's face went bright red, and he started yelling about how ungrateful and irresponsible I was being, how I was abandoning my family and biting the hand that fed me. But my mom just got this evil smile and said, "You'll be back within a month, honey. You have no idea what you're getting yourself into. You can't even do your own laundry. Bitch, I've been doing the whole family's laundry for 3 years." My little brothers were the only ones who seemed genuinely upset. Sam started crying and asking if I didn't love them anymore. Dylan was quiet, but I could tell he was worried. I felt bad for them because they were the only innocent ones in this whole mess. I pulled them aside and explained that I wasn't moving far away, that I'd still see them all the time, and that this didn't change how much I loved them. But I also wasn't going to let our parents take advantage of me. What my parents didn't realize is that by me leaving, they were losing way more than just potential rent money. They were losing their live-in babysitter, chauffeur, handyman, and housekeeper all at once. Moving day was weird. Jake came over with his truck to help me load my stuff, which honestly wasn't much since I'd been sharing a room forever. My parents just watched from the living room window like I was some kind of criminal. Didn't help carry anything, didn't say goodbye, nothing. As I was loading the last box, my mom came outside and said, "Don't come crying to us when this doesn't work out. We won't be taking you back." I replied, "Don't worry, I won't need to," and drove away to start my new life. The first week I was gone was apparently absolute chaos at home, though I didn't know it yet because my parents weren't talking to me. I was getting occasional texts from Dylan, though, and the picture he painted was hilarious. My mom forgot to pick up Sam from school, and the school had to call my dad at work, who had to leave early to get him. Sam was one of the last kids there, and was crying because he thought everyone forgot about him. Dylan missed his soccer practice because nobody remembered to drive him, with my mom claiming she thought practice was Thursday, even though it's been on Tuesday for the entire season. The garbage didn't get taken out and started overflowing and smelling. When my dad asked my mom why she didn't do it, she said, "That's not my job." My mom tried to do laundry and somehow managed to turn all of my dad's white work shirts pink because she'd mixed colors and whites together and used hot water for everything. Dylan had a math test he hadn't studied for because nobody helped him with homework. He failed it, and his teacher sent a note home asking if everything was okay. My mom attempted to mow the lawn and broke the lawnmower by hitting a sprinkler head and bending the blade. The yard looked like a war zone with grass cut at random heights. Sam had a meltdown at bedtime because he was used to me reading to him and putting him to bed. My mom tried, but he cried for 2 hours saying he wanted me. Meanwhile, I'm living my best life. Jake and I settled into a great routine where we rarely get in each other's way since he works different hours than me. We split groceries and take turns cooking. The apartment stays clean because we're both responsible adults. I have my own space, my own bathroom, and for the first time in years, actual privacy and peace. I'm saving more money than I ever thought possible. After rent and expenses, I still have over $1,100 left each month. I'm building my college fund, finally bought some nice clothes, and even started a real emergency savings account. But the best part is the complete freedom. I can come and go as I please, have friends over, sleep in on weekends, eat what I want when I want. No chores beyond basic cleaning up after myself. No babysitting duties. No being responsible for anyone but myself. It was everything I dreamed of and more. About 2 weeks after I moved out, I started getting texts from Dylan that painted an even more chaotic picture. Mom tried to make dinner and burned it so bad the smoke alarm went off, leading to a huge fight between my parents. Sam's teacher called because he's been falling asleep in class since mom's been letting him stay up until like 11 p.m. because she doesn't know how to get him to bed. The washing machine started making weird noises, and there's water all over the laundry room floor, but Dad can't fix it. Dylan failed another math test because mom said she'd help him study, but then forgot and went out with her friends instead. Dad had to leave work again to pick them up because mom's car wouldn't start, and he was really mad about it. I felt bad for my brothers, but I also felt vindicated. My parents were finally experiencing what it was like to actually parent their children and manage a household without their live-in help. The breaking point came about 3 weeks after I moved out when I got a call from my dad at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday. He was trying to sound casual, but I could hear the stress and exhaustion in his voice. He started with asking how the new place was treating me, and when I said it was great and the best decision I ever made, he admitted that maybe they were a little harsh with the whole rent situation. He offered to lower it to $800 and said I wouldn't have to pay as much of the bills. I almost laughed out loud because 3 weeks ago, they were demanding $1,750 and acting like they were doing me a favor. Now they're trying to negotiate down to $800, which was still more than I was currently paying for infinitely better living conditions. When I thanked him for the offer, but said I was really happy where I was and paying less than that with my own space, he got to the real reason for the call. He said family was important and the boys really missed me, that Sam asked about me every day. That part did tug at my heartstrings a bit because I missed my brothers too. But then he admitted that things had been really difficult around there without my help, that my mom was struggling with everything, and he couldn't keep leaving work to handle kid stuff. When I suggested maybe mom could get a job and contribute to the household finances instead of expecting her 18-year-old son to do it, he got quiet and said, "It's not that simple, son." But it seemed pretty simple to me. She hasn't worked in 8 years while he's been struggling to support the family. Maybe it's time she stepped up instead of expecting me to. He said they'd figure something out, but asked me to think about moving back home. I said I'd think about it, but was lying, then hung up. Over the next week, the situation at home apparently got even worse, based on Dylan's almost daily text updates. Mom tried to help him with math homework, got frustrated and started crying, saying she doesn't understand any of it. Dad came home to no groceries because mom forgot to go shopping, so he had to go out at 8 p.m. to buy stuff for their lunches. Sam got in trouble at school for not having his permission slip signed because mom said she never saw it, but it was on the kitchen counter for 3 days. The dishwasher broke, and there are dishes everywhere because mom says she doesn't know how to fix it, and dad doesn't have time. Dylan had to walk home from soccer practice because mom fell asleep and forgot to pick him up, and his coach was not happy about it. Then came the call from my mom, which was significant because she'd been giving me the complete silent treatment since I moved out. Her voice was completely different from her usual entitled tone. She sounded tired and defeated. After asking how I was doing, and me saying great, she admitted that maybe they could work something out. When I asked what kind of something, she offered $600 a month for my old room back, saying they wouldn't expect me to help with as many chores around the house. $600 to share a room with Dylan and still have to follow their rules, versus $650 for my own apartment. Plus, she said not as many chores, which meant I'd still be expected to do some parenting and housework. I told her I appreciated the offer, but was really happy where I was. And she started the guilt trip about how family is important, and we need to stick together, how the boys really need me there. I pointed out that the boys need parents who actually parent them, and maybe if she got a job and dad didn't have to carry all the financial stress alone, they'd both be better parents. She got quiet for a long moment, then her voice got shaky as she said she knew she hadn't been perfect, but was trying her best. That everything was just so hard without my help. I told her I was 18 years old and shouldn't have been responsible for raising my brothers and running the household in the first place. That was her job. She kept saying she knew, but they really needed me, then offered to pay me $300 a month to move back and help out, so I'd be making money instead of paying rent. Now this was interesting because she was offering to pay me $300 a month, which meant they valued my labor at least that much. But I was saving over $1,000 a month in my current situation compared to their original demand. I pointed out that 3 weeks ago, they wanted me to pay $1,750 a month. Now they're offering to pay me $300 to move back. That's a $2,000 difference. And asked what changed. She admitted they didn't realize how much I actually helped around here. And I said, "You mean you didn't realize how much free labor you were getting from your teenage son?" When she tried to say it wasn't like that, I told her it was exactly like that. They got used to having a live-in babysitter, housekeeper, and chauffeur. And now they're struggling without that help. But instead of stepping up and being actual parents, they wanted me to come back and enable their laziness. She said that wasn't fair, And I said, what's not fair is a grown woman who hasn't worked in 8 years, expecting her 18-year-old son to financially support the family. Maybe it's time she got a job and contributed, instead of just spending money on purses and manicures. She started crying and said she didn't know what else to do, that she couldn't handle all of this by herself. I told her to get help, hire a babysitter, get a housekeeper, get a job to pay for these things. Do what every other adult in the world does instead of relying on your children. When she said they couldn't afford it, I pointed out they can't afford it because they've been living beyond their means for years. And that's not my problem to solve. I hung up and blocked her number because I was done with the manipulation and guilt trips. A few days later, Dylan texted me that things were really bad at home. Mom and Dad had a huge fight about money and everything that's wrong. Mom was crying and saying she doesn't know how to do anything. Dad said maybe she should get a job and she freaked out. He's been coming home angry every day because he has to keep leaving work for them, and his boss is getting annoyed. Mom tried to cook dinner 3 times that week and messed it up every time, so they've been eating a lot of cereal. Sam's grades are dropping because no one helps him with homework, and his teacher wants to have a meeting with Mom and Dad, but Mom's scared because she doesn't know what to say. I felt bad for my brothers, but this was exactly what my parents needed to experience, the natural consequences of their choices. The final blow came about a month after I moved out when my dad called me, and this time he didn't even try to hide his desperation. He told me straight up that they were struggling, really struggling. Mom couldn't handle everything. He was missing too much work. The boys were falling behind in school, and everything was falling apart. When he said they needed me to come home and offered to pay me $500 a month plus cover all my expenses, so I'd basically be living for free and making money, I asked what exactly I'd be doing. He said just help out like I used to. Get the boys ready for school, drive them places, help with homework, some light housework, nothing too crazy. So they wanted to pay me $500 a month to be a full-time nanny, chauffeur, tutor, and housekeeper. For context, professional nannies in our area make $15 to $20 an hour. If I worked 40 hours a week at $15 an hour, I'd make $2,400 a month. They were offering me about 20% of market rate for professional childcare services. I told him that was a generous offer, but I was good where I was. He started begging, saying Mom was having panic attacks and didn't know how to handle any of this stuff, that he couldn't keep missing work, or he might lose his job. When I suggested maybe Mom should get a job, he said she's not qualified for anything because she's been out of the workforce too long. I told him then she can start with an entry-level job and work her way up like everyone else. McDonald's is always hiring. He said that wasn't realistic, and I said what's not realistic is expecting your 18-year-old son to sacrifice his independence and future to enable his mother's refusal to work. I'm not their solution to Mom's unemployability. He brought up the boys needing stability, and I said then provide it. Be parents, hire help if you need to, figure it out like every other family in the world. When he said they couldn't afford help, I told him then Mom needs to get a job to afford it. This is basic adulting. He was quiet for a long moment, then said in a defeated voice that he never thought it would be this hard. I told him it was always this hard. I was just doing most of the work for him. He asked me to please just think about it, because they really needed me. And I said I had thought about it, and the answer was no. They made their bed, now they have to lie in it. I hung up and felt a surge of satisfaction because for the first time in my life, I had all the power in this relationship. About 2 weeks later, my mom showed up at my apartment unannounced. Jake answered the door and came to get me saying there's a woman here who says she's your mom and she looks pretty upset. I went to the door and there she was, looking like absolute hell. Hair unwashed, no makeup, wearing sweatpants and an old t-shirt. This was a woman who usually wouldn't be caught dead without a full face of makeup and designer clothes. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me to ask what was going on. She started crying and said everything was falling apart, that she couldn't do this anymore and didn't know how to take care of the boys by herself or manage the house. She was failing at everything. When I told her to get help or hire someone, she said they couldn't afford it because Dad might lose his job from missing so much work. The bills were piling up. Sam's teacher wanted to meet about his grades dropping. Dylan failed 2 more tests. The washing machine was still broken. And there's water damage in the laundry room now. I said that sounded like a lot to deal with, and she agreed, saying that's why she needed me to come home. She'd do anything. They'd pay me $800 a month. I could have my own room by moving Dylan to the basement. No chores except helping with the boys. She was begging me. I looked at this woman who 3 months ago was calling me selfish and telling me I'd come crawling back, who was so entitled she thought she deserved to charge her 18-year-old son $1,750 a month for a shared bedroom, who hadn't worked in 8 years, but felt entitled to her son's entire paycheck. I asked her if she remembered what she said when I told her I was moving out, that I'd come crawling back within a month when I realized how hard the real world is, that I had no idea how to take care of myself. But here I was, 2 months later, living independently, saving money, happy and successful. And she was the one who came crawling to me, begging me to come back, because she couldn't handle basic adult responsibilities. When she said it wasn't the same thing, I told her it was exactly the same thing, except I was 18 years old when I figured out how to be independent, and she's in her 40s and still can't manage it. She said that was cruel, and I said what's cruel is a grown woman expecting her teenage son to financially support her lifestyle and do her parenting for her. What's cruel is charging your 18-year-old $1,750 a month for a shared bedroom when you know that's his entire paycheck. She claimed they were just trying to teach me responsibility, and I called bullshit. They were trying to use me as their personal ATM and unpaid servant. When I called their bluff and left, their whole house of cards came tumbling down. She was crying harder now and said, please, she'd change, she'd get a job, she'd do better, just come home and help them get back on their feet. I told her she'd had 8 years to get a job, 18 years to learn how to be a parent, decades to develop basic life skills. I wasn't going to sacrifice my future to enable her continued refusal to grow up. When she brought up Sam and Dylan needing me, I said they need parents who actually parent them, and maybe this crisis would finally force her to become one. She said she didn't know how, and I told her to learn. Take parenting classes, get therapy, get a job. Do what every other adult in the world does when they need to develop new skills. She said it was so hard, and I said it was always hard. I was just making it easy for her by doing everything myself. She stood there crying for a few more minutes, then asked if that was really it. Was I really not coming back? I said I really wasn't coming back. She asked what she was supposed to do, and I told her to figure it out. She's a grown adult. Act like one. She turned and walked back to her car looking completely defeated. I watched her drive away and felt nothing. No guilt, no sadness, just complete indifference. Through Dylan's texts, I've been getting updates on how things are going at home, and honestly, it's been fascinating to watch from a distance. My mom finally got a job about 2 months after our confrontation. She's working at a local retail store making minimum wage. According to Dylan, she hates it and complains constantly about having to be on her feet all day and deal with customers. She's also terrible at it, and has already been written up twice for showing up late. Dylan texted me that mom cried after her first week because she said she didn't realize how hard it was to work, and dad told her to suck it up because this is what everyone else does. My dad has had to adjust his work schedule to help with kid duties, which has apparently caused some tension with his boss. But Dylan says he's actually become a better parent out of necessity. He's learned how to help with homework, started cooking basic meals, and is more involved in their daily lives. Dylan admitted that dad's actually not that bad at the parent stuff. He helped him study for his history test last week, and Dylan got a B+, first time he'd passed anything in months. They've hired a housekeeper to come twice a month, which they can barely afford but desperately needed. They've also had to get the washing machine fixed for $800, repair the lawnmower for $200, and deal with the water damage in the laundry room for $1,500. All expenses they could have avoided if they'd just treated me fairly in the first place. The boys are slowly adjusting to having actual parents instead of relying on their big brother for everything. Sam had some rough weeks, but is apparently doing better now that my dad reads to him at bedtime. Dylan's grades have improved since my dad started helping with homework. But here's the kicker. Even with my mom working, they're still struggling financially. Turns out when you've been living beyond your means for years, one minimum wage job doesn't magically fix everything. They've had to cut back on a lot of expenses. No more designer purses, fancy dinners out, or expensive skincare products for my mom. Dylan told me that mom keeps saying how much she misses the old days when things were easier. And dad told her those days were only easier because I was doing all the work. Last month, I got a text from an unknown number. It was my mom, texting from a new phone because I still had her old number blocked. She said she knew I probably didn't want to hear from her, but she wanted to say she was sorry. I was right about everything. She was a terrible mother and took advantage of me. She didn't expect forgiveness, but needed me to know that she understood now how wrong she was. I stared at that message for a long time. A part of me felt vindicated. Finally, an admission that I was right all along. But mostly, I just felt sad for all the years we wasted with this dysfunctional dynamic. I didn't respond right away and let it sit for a few days, while I thought about what I wanted to say, if anything. Finally, I texted back that I appreciated the apology and hoped she continued to grow and become the parent Sam and Dylan deserved. She responded immediately saying she was trying. It was hard, but she was trying. and that she missed me. I told her I missed the mom I thought I had too. We haven't texted since then, and honestly, I'm okay with that. I don't need a relationship with her right now. Maybe someday in the future when she's proven she can be a real adult and parent, but not now. I do see my brothers regularly now. I pick them up every other weekend, and we hang out, go to movies, play video games, grab food. But it's different now because I'm their big brother, not their third parent. I don't help with homework or handle their problems for them. I just spend quality time with them and let our actual parents do the parenting. At first, Sam kept asking me to come home and why I couldn't just move back because they missed me so much. I sat him down and explained it in terms he could understand, like how he felt when Billy was taking his toys at school and he had to learn to stand up for himself. Sometimes grown-ups have to stand up for themselves too, even with family. Dylan gets it more now that he's older. A few weeks ago, he told me he was actually proud of me because I didn't let them walk all over me, and he wants to be like that when he's older. That meant more to me than any apology from my parents ever could. But here's the absolute best part of this whole story, and why I had to share it with Reddit. Last week, Dylan told me that my parents are now struggling so much financially that they're considering selling the house and downsizing to something smaller. The same house they expected me to help pay the mortgage for. Dylan explained that Dad said they can't afford the payments anymore, especially with Mom's job paying so little and all the repairs they've had to do. They're looking at apartments and smaller houses. The irony is beautiful. They wanted me to pay $1,750 a month to help with their mortgage on a house they couldn't actually afford. When I refused and moved out, they not only lost that potential income, but they also had to start paying for all the services I was providing for free. Now they're probably going to end up in an apartment not much bigger than the one I'm living in, except they'll be paying more for it because they waited until they were desperate instead of making smart financial decisions from the beginning. And the cherry on top? My mom asked Dylan if he thought I'd be willing to help them move when the time comes. His response was, "Are you serious, Mom? After what you did to him? Even my 14-year-old brother has more sense than my parents do."